Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Lawn, my FM 101.3 on WMRC First Class Radio on this fine Saturday morning with your host, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group. Yes. And I'm John Drohan, and we're joined once again by the Hollison Cable Access TV.
Yes, we are.
Christian Bidet manning the helm once again. And welcome, everybody, back to Money in the Law. Jay, how are you doing?
Oh, doing tip-top, right? 2019, let's get into it. It's all exciting. It's all brand new. Everything starts off. It feels fresh. It's exciting.
I love your enthusiasm.
Hey,
I do love your enthusiasm.
You know me. I love winter. I love everything. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Nothing better than winter for
Nope,
you.
nothing better. Yep, I love it. I love
right,
it.
there's nowhere else you'd rather be.
Oh, right here,
than
right here. Yep, right here. Getting yelled at this morning because the bricks were icy and no more rock salt, and I'd rather prefer the margarita salt than the rock salt, but that's a whole different story.
It's the same thing. It's pretty much
yeah.
I'm sure that if you were making a margarita and you had run out of margarita salt and all you had was rock salt, you'd bite the bullet.
Tough it out.
You'd crunch through it. Yeah.
Oh, look, iodine infused. Oh, I feel healthier already. This is fantastic.
These are big.
That's right. That's right. My teeth hurt. That's right.
Yeah. For those of you who don't, but
don't do that.
Then we're not saying eat rock salt. But on the other hand, if you lived in a place where Jay lives, where he lives like down the side of like a ski slope,
it's like the Eiger.
You might want to have some rock salt on hand.
And not only is the driveway just directionally challenged, but now we're at the point where the driveway's starting to become structurally challenged. Right, we'll be due for the new new
I've
pavement.
Been putting that off.
Yeah,
forever.
I've been putting that off as well. I've been fighting that whole. We moved out here and people are like, oh my God, you're not going to seal your driveway this year? I thought, what is that even all about? What do you mean? First of all, I'm just glad I have a driveway. Okay. Second of all, I get to paint my driveway now every year or every couple of years. What is that all about? So,
It's true. Some of the guys in the neighborhood will go unmentioned. Will do it religiously, and they're out there, and they got the cans and the tar, and they're like rubbing, with the big it's like those big giant squeegee wipers.
Squeegee. Oh my God, it's heaven, right? They're out there. They get the radio on. Oh my God,
They do it, and unfortunately, for the case of my neighbor, his driveway. There's some underwater, some underwater channel of current that comes underneath.
Basin there,
yeah, and he'll do that. He'll do his driveway every year, and it'll like the San Andreas fault will come through that driveway every time.
Yep.
And it makes me every time when I don't do my driveway, I'm like, see, that's why I don't do my driveway.
I see people do it, and I think to myself, it looks like move all those rocks, sweep where they were, and then put those rocks back. Right? That's how I see it. And so that's in the
that's different than if you got your whole driveway redone, because on the other side of me, my other neighbor, before he moved out, got his whole driveway redone, and I'm looking at wow,
looks nice.
That looks really good.
Yeah.
I could land an airplane on that
thing.
Yep,
that's right. Right to land. Don't put lines on it, but you can put lights on both sides. Don't put lines on it. Whatever you do.
There's a yellow dotted line down the middle.
Trust me, don't do that. No, don't do that. Neighbors don't like that. What are we talking about today?
Oh, I know what I want to talk about. But before we get started, we were talking about we were talking about something funny. We're talking about how it's 2019 and it's time to the beginning of the year, everybody gets fired up about turning over some new or setting some new standards.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned off the air about one of the new standards in the Marsden household, which I'm very interested.
I have two things I have to talk about. The first thing I have to talk about is. Most recently, I told them I'd give them a shout out because it is well deserved. If you have not had a chance to, or if it's on your list of things to do in 2019, move it up to early 2019 and get yourself over to the new Jasper Hill location in Millis. Okay.
The old Rossies.
That's right. The old
right?
Rossies, the old Victorian on 115 there. I think that's 115. Used to be Rossi's. Jasper Hill moved out of their location in downtown Holliston. We went over there a couple of weeks ago to kind of wrap up the year, wrap up 18, and have a conversation with friends and have make a moment, make a memory. And they're doing a lights out job over there. Lights out job. The building is cool. The architecture is unbelievable. You get crown molding. You have all this millwork. I mean, the building itself is really cool. And they've done a top-notch job over there. So if you are looking for a night out, they've got a phenomenal live music schedule. Put it on your list. Get over there to Rossi's, the old Rossi's in for the new Jasper Hill. So,
what goes better with live music than crown molding?
Oh,
nothing.
No, Crown Royal. I don't know. Maybe
Royal.
it does. Maybe
Crown Royal,
Who knows?
Crown Music, Crown Molding.
Whatever. Who knows?
Here we
Whatever. All right. So you asked me my 2019 new family initiative. I think is how I talked about how I mentioned it. So my kids, as you well know, because you're intimately involved in their day-to-day comings and goings, as I am of yours. The kids are getting older. So I told the kids this year, 2019, I says, this is the year. I used slightly more colorful language, but I said, guys, this is the year of just telling it like it is. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done.
We don't have time. We don't have time to
That's right.
sugarcoat it.
One of them is going to be out the door in 18 months, on her way to college. The other one's right hot on her heels doing the same exact thing. I said, guys, I am done sort of explaining big picture why things have to get done the way they are. I said, we're going to cut to the chase now. I said, I love both of you to death. I'll do anything for you. You're my two of the three most important people in my entire life.
Clearly.
Right? Lives everybody under this roof. But that one of them, being my wife, needs no explanation of how things work. She's got the world all figured out.
Yeah.
On multiple levels.
Yeah.
Now you two,
much better.
right?
She figured that out much sooner than you did.
Oh, way sooner than I. Yeah, that's right. I take all my direction from her. But for as far as the other two go, my daughter's
Still in training.
Still in training. That's right. Training wheel's still on. So I said, guys, it's a crash course in life in 2019, and so. I told them I'm not going to worry about. Dad loves you. Dad loves you. We're not worried about the esteem. We're not worried about crushing your spirit. All right. It's all about getting the message out. Yep. This is what's going to happen. I said the volume may go up. I said the degree of profanity may also rise with it. I said, but this is about getting it real and getting it figured out. We're done messing around.
The profanity is not. It's not arbitrary. No, it's designed. It's designed to send to put
emphasis.
To put,
it's
emphatic. It's an emphasis on a particular point. Right.
That's right.
So you remember it. So it sticks in your mind.
That's right.
I can't agree more.
Right. The level of sarcasm of everybody who's listening to the show right now is going to say. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep.
That's right.
If I pick up another wrapper, if I put away another empty, dirty dish, all that stuff. I said, guys, all of this from now on, it is being called out. I'm done. It's time to get it figured out. This is it. It's final season, right?
Yeah.
Call it out.
It's almost and here's what I couldn't agree with you more. And here's what I'm finding is that. That as my children get older and they get they start to we start to become on the same level and from like vertically on the same level, I feel like that if I raise my voice, that I used to think that the only time they listened was when I yelled, and I would say that the only time you listen is when I yell. Now, as I raise my voice, I'm hearing some volume coming back at me, right?
Sure,
So and of course, your instinctual at that point is to, I can yell louder than you. I'm stronger and bigger. Yeah, and I weigh more. Yeah. And then, but as unfortunately, both of my kids are vocally, I think, are stronger than I am.
Oh yeah.
So if this is and then my oldest one, forget it. She's way past me. I'm not in her league anymore. So, but the arguments as we start to raise the level, and then it becomes almost futile because it's like I'll yell at you, you yell at me, and then nobody wins that. Nobody wins that battle. So, as far as like the idea of reality, now it's like, okay, if I say this is what I'm going to do, like if I say, hey, we're leaving for school at 7:10, what I need to do is I need to get in my car and drive to the high school. Even if I have no passengers.
Oh, at 10:07. At 10:07.
That's
correct.
Right?
That's absolutely right. Yep.
And then I'll go through the whole motion. I'll drop off. I'll wave. I'll say bye-bye to children who aren't there, and then I'll drive home, and there'll be, of course, chaos and mayhem. And
sure.
But they will know that I mean business.
How many times will that happen? Once, maybe twice, but once, and that's it. But I mean, this whole idea of you have practice tomorrow morning. Set your alarm so that you wake up. Now, by the way, just so you know, practice is at 9:00. Don't set your alarm for 8:55, okay? Might want to give yourself a little bit of time because let's all admit you're a little slow out of the gate in the morning,
right.
Okay? But set your alarm, right? These little life lessons that you've sort of hoped at some point they would have picked up, right? Because of your gentle suggestion, all wrapped around, the loving embrace of mom and dad who are not trying to crush that teenage spirit. I want to keep them.
And there won't be any consequences.
I want to keep them little kids as long as I can get.
We want
you
to succeed. We want you to win.
That is done. That is done in 2019. No more trophies for participation. That's it. We're done in 2019. You either get it done or it doesn't get done, and it's not my problem.
Right.
This is it. Real life, guys. And especially when the kids get older, you laugh. And and as a former member of the military, you can appreciate this. I always say to the kids, 18 years old, you can vote and you can go to war. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you can do those things, guess what you can also do? You can do laundry. You can clean your bathroom.
Yep.
You can do all this other stuff.
You can do what I tell you to do.
That's right. That's right. that I have gently tried to bring you along, hoping at some point that bells and whistles and things will go off. And so in those areas where it's not, we're just going to be a little bit crisper in the directions and a little bit crisper and a little bit more efficient on what we expect. That's all. We still love them. We still love them.
One of your biggest fans, my mother, will say, and one of her classic like things that she has given to us over the years of one of her pearls of wisdom is clarify your expectations.
There you go.
I mean, there's a big sign that says in her basement that says clarify expectations, which she used to do when she used to work at Danbury Hospital, and that's the thing. We just say, okay, here's what I want you to do, and here's the time in which you have to do this. Are we clear? And you can do the brief back, like say it back to me. Of course, then it usually comes back in some sort of sarcastic, snotty way.
A telephone, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but at least now they know. And then, and the consequences of if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen, or this is what is not going to happen. That needs to be very clear as well.
That's right. That's right.
And
that's
my and again, I try and do this in as you have said, in as loving and kind and fatherly way as I can.
Yes.
But I'm going to be clear about it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Actually, you know what somebody suggested to me, which I thought was genius, and then we'll go on to the topic of the show. They said videotape or on your phone, right? Take your iPhone out, film yourself telling your kids how much you love them and how much you have nothing but the best hopes and dreams for them, and then send that to them and then say to them, when you're feeling all bitter and salty because I'm clarifying your expectations a little bit maybe too clearly, you can always take that video out and say, here's a reminder. Or they'll have it, right? You just look on your phone and remind yourself how much Dad loves you. All right, so here you go.
But I will say this, with my kids, yours probably as well, is they have that iMovie. They'll be able to edit said video,
excellent
and they will use that against you. They will use
social media.
Because
they will crush you on social media.
Because then what they'll do is they'll have their phone and they'll be videoing you secretly as you are giving them some directive in a higher volume. Right, and maybe, like you said, maybe using some emphasis, some emphasizing words,
yes.
And they will then put that into your video, like "I love you so much." You got that.
That's a great point. All right, so maybe hold off on that. Maybe keep that in your phone, and you can just pull it out and hold it up, and then put it away. That's a good idea.
No, don't spread.
You want that in the cloud. Good point. Good point. Well played. Well played. So, what are you talking about today?
So I wanted to talk about something to do with I like estate planning. I love talking about estate planning.
Who doesn't?
One of the big things that I like is, especially in this millennial area, the millennial era of now that they're kind of like the big up and coming stars in the financial planning world. I'm wondering if I'm a parent of a millennial, what are some things that I can do for millennials, and is there anything that I can give them in my estate plan? I don't know. I that just came up top of my head. I don't know if you had any information on that. You being an estate planning attorney, maybe you could help me out on that.
Well, funny you should say that. I happened to just be reading an article the other day, which you can find posted on our website, our Facebook website at Marsden Law PC.
No such thing as a Facebook website.
Site, whatever it is, on our Facebook page, Marsden Law PC. And the article that I happened to stumble into is called "The Estate Planning Gift to Give Your Millennial Children in 2019." Yes, by Megan Gorman is her name, who wrote the article.
Wow.
So we'll give her props for that. But the gist of the article is that Mom and Dad, the boomer generation, if you will, they're sitting on a pile of dough, right? They got wealth, they've been successful, all the planets have lined up, and things are good. Things went pretty well for them, right? So now they want to turn this stuff over to their children, right? They want to give the gift that all parents want to give their kids, right? You leave your legacy, but they feel like the kids, I think, they're defining them here as the millennials, right? They feel like they're a little underprepared for this type of transfer of wealth and this type of legacy. And so the purpose of the article is to have a discussion with your kids, or go so far as to say, you want to give your kids a gift? Give your kid a gift certificate or pay for them to go see a CPA, go see an estate planning attorney, and have this conversation about, this is what it looks like when I transfer wealth from A to B, from me to you. Are you ready for it, right? And we talk about this with clients all the time. you have a trust, your kids are going to get your money. Are there ages that you're going to build in there when your kids could kind of get your money? But you know what? They're going to get it, and they need to understand what getting your wealth means. And the example that I always think about is, I don't imagine that old man Joe Kennedy, when he was sitting around bootlegging and buying property and making money running,
stealing property in Cape Cod.
movie studios out in the West Coast, he didn't turn around and say, boy, I hope JFK knows what to do with this money when I give it to him, right? Hope he doesn't squander it on something like a run for the White House or something like that, right? There's a conversation that goes on where people are saying to their kids, look, I've been wildly successful. And guess what? When I'm not around, you're going to get it. But you know what? Do you even have a clue what to do with it? So have that conversation now while everybody can participate.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
And that's your extreme example, the wildly successful, because so when you're talking about somebody like Joe Kennedy or the Kennedy, that family and the amount of wealth that's coming, that's slightly different than what most normal people are used to dealing with, right?
Sure.
So but you're talking about people who've won the game. Like, they've won the game. They're never going to run out of money. So as from the retirement planner's point of view, these are people that are never going to run out of money, and they're never going to spend this money, right? They have assets that, like, listen, you're never going to spend this money. You have $1 million in a brokerage account. You're never going to spend it. You don't need it to generate any of your income. You don't need it to. There's nothing that you need to buy. There's no. There's a whole bunch of. But eventually, it's going to go to your kids either now or when you die. So you have this ability to transfer this wealth, to be able to kind of financially put your kids in a situation that they're going to have a much greater advantage than a lot of other people, because they're essentially inheriting a significant amount of money. And by doing that, when someone, all of a sudden their financial situation changes, like in the blink of an eye. Now, granted, there's different ways to kind of step into it, like you mentioned, like through a trust, but eventually they're going to get that money. And if they don't have a plan, or if they're not prepared for it, because like you said, they understand, like, look, all I know is that my old man's got $1 million, and that me and my sister are going to split it. And that's what I know. So in their minds, they're like, well, $1 million, I can divide that in half. That's $500,000. I'm going to get $500,000.
Well, so think about it, right? So they're going to say, I'm going to get $500,000. So what am I going to do with that $500,000? I'm going to buy a house, right?
Yeah, I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to
buy a boat.
That's going to be my house.
I'm going to buy, or to your point, it's going to be my house, right? As opposed to a conversation, whether it's with the parents, or the parents involved with the financial advisor and the CPA or the lawyer, to say, whoa, time out, all right? Let's talk about what you inheriting $500,000 means, right? It means that you have a pool of money, and yes, you could potentially run out and buy a house, but is that what you want to do? Yeah. Do you want to have a house with no mortgage and no money in the bank? Do you want to have a house with a mortgage that you can afford and that you pay away, and then you have a $500,000 portfolio that's growing over here, and you play the whole arbitrage game about what are you paying on your mortgage and what could your money earn, and what could that $500,000 do for you, right? What type of freedom and flexibility does it give you, and how do we take that money and figure out what's the best way for you to understand how that works?
Well, one of the great things about this is, as a money manager, and I'm speaking totally selfishly at this point, is when my client, let's say I have the affluent client who is the baby boomer, who wants to talk about passing on those assets to said children, right, to said millennial children in this case, and he says, hey, I want to have a meeting. Let's set up a meeting with you and my kids. That's great for me, because I want to keep that money. We want to continue to manage that money. So even when that estate goes, so from a selfish perspective, of course, we want to continue to manage that money, because we've managed it for one client, and these multi-generational clients. For us, that there's nothing better. There's nothing better, because again, our job, your job as well as mine, is that our job is to help our people get to where they want to go. We want our clients to be happy and successful and live wonderful lives through their retirement, and die at when they're 150 years old. And part of that happiness is the peace of mind knowing that their kids are going to be happy, and that their kids are going to be safe. So that's all part of what we do. So the idea of when they say, hey, listen, we'd like to have this meeting, we'd like to get I want to get my kids on board, and I want them to understand kind of what exactly is going to happen.
Well, and to your point, right? I mean, this doesn't have to be a one and done, right? I mean,
No.
this is a conversation, right? So you could say, or your client could say, look, we want to get together, and they could do it in a couple of stages, right? The client could say to you, John, we want to get together and talk with you about how we see the transfer of wealth from us to our children, okay? And you can say to them, great, let's have that conversation, and then let's talk about the concerns that you have around doing that, right? What are the good ways, what's the good about it? What's going to be the bad about it? Let's have that conversation. And this is without the kids in the room, right?
Sure.
And then you have that conversation with your clients and you say, great, we've kind of fleshed out all the ideas. You brought some stuff up. You kind of triage some issues that they hadn't thought of. They think of some more things while you're in that meeting. And then you have a discussion that says, okay, let's now move on to the next meeting where we bring the kids in.
Right.
Right.
And part of that conversation could very well be, and again, if you're dealing with a client who's done well and is successful, they're probably not dumb, right? So they're like, hey, look, here's what I don't want to have. I don't want my kid thinking in his mind at the end of this meeting that I just got $1 million, because that's all they're going to hear. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting my sister's getting $1 million and I'm getting $1 million, and it's just a matter of when Dad checks out, right? It's
Yep.
just a matter of when. And that's all they hear. I don't want that. Like, your client will be like, look, I don't want that. I want them to understand kind of how it's going to work, what the ramifications are of it, and because most kids know if their parents have money.
Yeah.
Most kids if they've grown up in in an affluent family, they know that money's coming.
Right.
And most kids, at least I would say the vast majority of them, the last thing they want to talk about is, especially if they have a good family life, is when their parents are going to die. Right.
That's right.
I mean, right now, I don't want to have that conversation. This isn't a conversation I want to have with my mother.
No, but I think you're bringing up a good point, and then we'll go to a break. I think you're bringing up a good point, which is that's the way you have the conversation is not around when mom and dad die, right? The conversation is this is about transferring wealth.
Yeah.
This is about transferring wealth in a couple of different ways. One way while you're alive, and one way after you pass away. And then when we come back from the break, I want to talk about who we kind of need to think about, who's on the dance floor for this conversation,
Right.
and then we can talk about how that conversation happens going forward. But we do have to get a break in here because
Yeah, hard break here
hard
on
break.
Money
Yeah,
Law,
yeah.
My FM 101.3, Holliston Cable Access TV, Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group, John Droy, Main Effort Financial. We will be right back.
And you're back, Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group. He's John Drohan, Man Effort Financial. Christian Manning the Con, keeping us handsome and skinny on Holliston Cable
Speak for
Access
yourself.
Television, right? So yeah, makes us look.
I'm hydrating right now.
I'm
hydrating right now in order to try and shed the weight, shed my
Shed the weight
holiday
in
weight.
2019. All right, it's
Yep.
good. It's
I'm
good.
shedding.
I didn't
I'm
put you- I
shedding
didn't
it
put you
down.
on, so it's good. I stayed pretty lean
Well,
during
I'm
the holidays.
going to be a little older than you here shortly. So
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. That's why
That's why I got to stay one step ahead.
Hey, I get that all the time. I get that all the time. So we're talking about transferring wealth, and we're talking about the concern that the boomer generation, if you will, has about transferring wealth to their kids because they feel like, I'm not sure my kids are ready for it. I'm not sure my kids are prepared for it. They kind of have to get their own house in order. And one of the things we were talking about before the break was who's going to be part of that conversation. We talked about us as the boomer generation, if you will. We talked about the folks who are going to be.
Wait, are we the boomer generation?
No, not the boomer generation. We're talking about us discussing the boomer generation.
We're like in
talking
between.
about the millennials.
We're like,
I don't know what we are.
We're the X generate, right?
I
Or the
don't know, X, Y, I have
yeah.
no
So
idea.
we're in between the boomers, right, and these millennials. Because I mean, you would not consider yourself a baby boomer.
Well, no, I get the boomers. I got my parents telling me
That's
how
right.
successful they've been and bragging about that.
Boomer,
And then you get the
boomer, right?
millennials who said,
Say how cool they are.
I graduated with.
Wait. There's one in the room right now.
I graduated with a college degree, so now I should walk into a $100,000 a year
That's
job
right.
with zero. Yeah, that's right.
And I should be in charge of Holliston Cable Access TV.
Right. Jump Street.
Yeah.
Yep. From Jump Street. So we're in the middle. We're like the. Yeah. I know, Ma. I'll try to be successful.
You know what
and
we
then-
are?
yeah.
You know what we are? We're the hardworking people who kind of earn their way up to where they are now, and yet there's a little gray hair, so there's a little water under the bridge, so
Nice.
we kind of know what we're doing. But
In a couple of years,
not-
we're going to be the people
but we're
on
still
the commercials. That's
we're
what
still
gonna be.
very young.
Yes.
No, we're still very young.
Young at heart.
Yeah,
Young at heart.
No,
Young at heart.
young and young. Young.
Yeah. Well, my point before the break was, think about it, right? I mean, there's really only three levels, right? There's the mom and dad, there's the kids, and then there's the grandkids, right? I mean, everybody talks about their great grandkids and all that stuff, but you know, depending on what the org chart looks like and when the org chart got started, you know, you might meet your great grandkid, and I you know, I hope we all do.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you're going to be engaged.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if you're going to their college graduation.
That's right. That's right. You might see
If
him,
you
might see
are,
him for a little bit. Might hold him.
If you
might be a
are,
picture of you and
God
everybody
bless
else
you.
because they always do the
Yep.
fourth thing picture there a couple
You're
of
drinking
generations.
good water.
But it really takes a lot to get to that part of the finish line. So you're talking about three. Now, by the way, what's going to happen is, think about it, right? It's a pay it forward thing. You're as the boomer generation, if you have a conversation about wealth management and your wealth going to your children are going to have that conversation with their children and your great-grandchildren who are going to be their grandchildren. So this idea of this intergenerational wealth discussion, it's 2 generations for you, but it's kind of always going to be 2, maybe 3 if you get lucky. But even if you do get lucky,
it's always 2.
You know, it's pretty late in the game for you. So it's a different. You know, I'm not saying it couldn't happen or it won't be, might be different, but you know, statistically speaking, it's going to be you, your kids, and your grandkids for the most part.
So what you said at the beginning of the show, the true gift that we're, I mean, not the essentially the financial gift or the financial legacy that you're going to leave, but the gift is this gift of knowledge, or this gift of awareness, or this gift of the ability, the understanding of how and of what's going to happen. Because remember, a lot of and we talk about this often on the show, a lot of these baby boomers that have won the game, that are financially independent, that will have money that they will never spend. They earned every red cent of that money.
Oh yeah.
They earned it. They saved it. They sacrificed things. They invested well. They were diligent. Like they got to their. It wasn't handed to them.
No,
right?
no, by no means.
Many of
by
them.
no means.
Now, some of them were,
Sure.
but many of them it wasn't. So now what they're going to do is they're going to do something that didn't happen to them. They're going to, and you know, we all as parents, we all want to make, you know, we want our kids to have better lives than ours. We want our kids to have more opportunity than we did. And you know, it's just the natural parenting mindset. But what happens is these people that have earned all this money are now going to turn around and they're going to give this money to their kids. They're
because their parents were from the Depression.
Right, because
So
their parents didn't give them anything.
Yeah,
right?
they'll tell you they had nothing. They'd have 2 nickels to rub together, right? And they scraped and scraped.
And this may be, you know, after they've already given their kids a college education because they paid for their college education because they could afford to. They've given their kids a nice place to live, a nice school system. They've given their kids vacations. They've had some really nice Christmases. I mean, the kids have done okay to this point.
Yes.
But now at some point, you know, these adult children are going to get the rest of it. They're going to get the rest of their and this could be sizable. It could be life changing. So this idea of, you know, the real gift is the gift of that you're going to give them this, but also give them the means and the wherewithal to understand it.
Give them the tools. Give them the tools to know what to do with it.
But to also recognize that what this is. Like, this isn't something to be squandered or something to be frivolous. This didn't just show up. We didn't win the lottery.
That's right. That's right.
Now maybe it did, but whatever. I mean,
well, no, but to your point, I mean, you know, we'll have clients that come in all the time and they'll say, you know, we've amassed, or because one of the things that comes up is, when do you have this conversation, right? So when, you know, when your kids are younger and they don't have any kids of their own, the world is different, right? So this conversation with your kids, or this discussion about wealth transfer and family legacies, is something that you might want to try to pinpoint around certain life events, because you mentioned life-changing events, right? Life-changing events could be somebody passing away, where, you know, there's a reason to discuss the idea and the concept of inheritance and what might be coming your way. Or another time to do it is to when your kids have kids, right? They start having kids and all of a sudden their world is different, right? And so that might be a great opportunity, because then they're thinking to themselves, hey, it's not, hopefully they're thinking to themselves, it's not about me anymore, right? Now I got to figure out my kids. Right. And then you broach this subject of, you know, let's talk about, you know, what type of, you know, wealth transfer might happen here, and, you know, there's an opportunity to talk about college funding, and there's a topic to talk about, but to talk about, you know, how it's time for your kids to really take their lives seriously from a financial perspective, because stuff's going to happen. And one of those things is what you mentioned, which is, if you're going to get money like this, how does it change? What does it change, and how does it change things that you may have already done?
Here's a great question, right? Here's a great question. So how many times have you had a client, like a younger client, comment. When I say younger, I'm saying they could be in their 30s, 40s, but they have parents, or relatives that have wealth, right? And they talk about, well, you say, oh, you start going through the whole plan. Okay, so what's, here you're saving for retirement. You have 2 kids. Eventually, you're going to pay for college education. Then they stop and they say, well, at some point, my dad was the CEO of, If St. John or some,
Right.
some crazy company. And so he's told me that there's going to be money that, I'm going to inherit a good amount of money. And then you say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, let's stop right there. And we always treat the inheritance, and you do the same thing. Is like inheritances are great, but they're not on the table yet, and they're not on the table for a whole host of reasons, and they're certainly not positioned in the planning process unless you have the person they're gonna give the money, the actual donor says, oh yeah, here's how it's gonna work. They're gonna inherit this money, but if they need money before then here's where I will gift you guys money. I will pay for this. I'll pay for that. So the idea of kind of using a inheritance that's on the way as part of your financial plan, we don't do it.
No,
we don't do it.
It's found money. Found money.
That's right. It's extra money, and then we always say, look, if and when it comes, and we're not saying that it's not going to come. We're not saying how much it's going to be. It could be more. It could be less. No one really knows that. If and when it comes, then that's great. Then we adjust our plan from there.
Well, we always ask about it, and we ask about it for the same reasons that you guys ask about it. Okay, it's helpful to know. It's helpful to know because there might be a need to have this type of conversation that we're talking about right now, right this second. But at the same time, we always make the same. We don't know how much money it's going to cost to take care of mom and dad in their older years. We don't know if we're going to have to pay for long-term care. We don't know if someone's going to have dementia. We don't know if to deal with nursing home costs. And we try to dissuade kids from thinking that is on its way, lock, stock, and barrel. And
it's in the bank.
That's right. That's right. Because if they start thinking that way, they make planning decisions that could be based off of a whole bunch of scenarios that really never come true.
Why should I put money into my 401k? Why should I save money for my kids' college? Because my parents are going to pay for it. But if for whatever reason, your fault, my fault, nobody's fault, that money's not available because of it's had to be used for something else, then guess what? There's no that college plan that you had, the fact that those 18 years that you had to help save money for your kids' college, it's gone.
That's right.
Yeah, you've lost that opportunity.
Now, something to keep in mind, if as a part of this discussion, mom and dad say to the kids, we want you to get your affairs lined up much in the way that we have our affairs lined up. And you know what? We'll even, our gift to you is we'll even pay for it, right? Yeah. Kids say, this happens all the time. Clients say, I want to pay for something that my kids get done, or I'm going to pay for something that my parents do, and I'll take care of it. Just because you pay for it, the kids' planning ideas are still their own planning ideas, right? So paying for your kids' estate plan doesn't mean you get to see all their documents. Doesn't mean that you get to peek behind the curtain and see what they have going on.
And it doesn't mean you get to influence it, right? So
no, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
They get to. I mean. And that's awkward, right? Hey, listen, I paid for this thing, right? I paid for this attorney, right? But if I'm the old man, right? And I'm this is my guy. I brought him in here.
I wrote the check. I should be able to see.
I'm reading the will right now.
And in a big part of the world, the guy that writes the check usually drives a lot of the bus, right?
Yeah.
But in the lawyer world, whoever pays the bill doesn't matter. The question always comes down to who's my client, right? If the kid's my client, then that's who I owe my allegiance to. I can owe it to both of you guys. Yeah. But there's a Chinese wall between those two conversations. I can't mix those two people. They're doing their own thing.
And you want to, and if the guy says, "Well, give me back my check," then it's like, "Whoa, we can work this all out."
No. The answer is take your check. That's fine. I work for you on your stuff. I work for your kids' stuff. Even though you're paying the tab, that's fine.
I have all my faith in the people at the Marsden Law Group that they would be able to smooth that all over and have everybody leave that office happy.
Well, but this is something that, we hear about this all the time. 2019, these are my resolutions, right? My resolutions are to, get my own stuff in order, and then in some ways, to go to if you're going to do it on your own, you say to your parents, hey, Mom and Dad, we want to get our estate plan buttoned up. You've been on us to get it done. Is there something that we need to coordinate, right? You want this to be a productive exercise. Right. You don't want this to create hurt feelings. And so early on, you talked about how you get the idea of getting together with your clients ahead of time and sort of fleshing out some of these hot spots, and in some respects, let you be the bad cop, right? If that needs to happen,
Yep.
And mom and dad don't want to raise some of these issues, being keyed into these issues and the fact that there's some things that have a degree of sensitivity that need to be addressed around them, that gives you a chance to be the one to sort of pull those out, whether you do it together or you do it individually. But I think everybody has to, the clients who are driving this type of discussion, they need to be very comfortable in the idea that can the family survive this type of discussion, right? Because you don't want to go and create problems that aren't necessarily there. But at the same time, if these problems do exist, they don't come out now. They may come out at some point, and so the answer may be to get these things hammered out now, and it may be something that needs to happen over a couple of planning meetings.
Yeah, what's the purpose of this? The purpose isn't to like freak everybody out and say, hey, mom and dad are going to die someday.
Yeah.
We talk about money. The purpose of this is, I go back to my mom, right? But clarifying expectations.
Yep.
So if I'm a millennial growing up and I know that my parents have money, I know that there's going to be something, and maybe I'm privy to that information, but maybe I'm not. And if I'm not privy to it, I know in my mind that there's something there. There's
Sure.
money there.
Yeah.
So this meeting or this idea of, okay, just so we're clear, this is how it's all going to happen. And we've talked about this. This is that meeting. This is like everybody feels good. Everybody's cerebrally they're all fine, and they're like, look, here's how mom and dad want to do it, right? Here's what we think. Here's how we want to do it in our mind. And at some point, you're going to get X. You're going to get whatever's left in. This is our war chest. We're going to spend it until
Sure.
and whatever's left over, you guys are going to get. That's pretty. It's that simple, right?
But there may be a conversation that says we know how much the war chest needs to have in it because we built the war chest and there's wiggle room in there for a couple of scenarios. And guess what? We have all this extra stuff over here, and we would love the idea of turning this over to you, but we don't want to turn it over to you in such a way that it doesn't have the intended outcome that we want it to have, right? We want to pass on to you guys some financial security because we've made some good decisions, and we want to pass the benefits of those good decisions on to you guys. But that doesn't mean that I want you to take it and run to Vegas,
Sure.
right? I want to have a sense that you'll be able to handle the wealth. You'll be able to handle the gift, handle whatever it is. Think about it, right? Money's one thing, people it's a little harder to wrap your head around, but if you thought for 1 second that you had, let's say you have a Cape house, right? And you say to yourself, I want to give the house to the kids on the Cape, but they're not going to take care of it, right? They're going to, and nobody wants to take care of it.
Nobody lives close.
That's right.
No
That's
one
right.
wants to, yeah.
You could show up and you could visually see, geez, I'm not really sure that giving them the house was a good idea because it's a mess.
Yeah.
The lawn hasn't been mowed. Nothing's been taken care of.
Everybody kind of like backs. Oh, it's not my job. It's not my job to pay the electric bill.
Yeah. So you would physically see, right, the degradation of what impact you've sort of imparted to your kids, right? But if you write them a check for $100,000, well, you're not going to see that, right?
No.
And you're not going to see the 100 go to
You may
90,
see it when they
to
you may
80,
see it when they drive to your house the next time and they drive
might.
that new BMW. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
And you might say, look, I didn't give you $100,000 to buy a BMW 11 Series or whatever the heck you'd be buying for that. I gave you this money to make an impact on your lives and my grandkids' lives, right?
Yeah.
So this is what, this is the discussion,
And of
right?
course, with your astute estate planning attorney, I mean, there's ways to do that. You can say, oh yeah, I have $1 million. It's in my other bucket, right? That I'm not going to use. And guess what? This is what I want to use it for. I know that Mary, Sally, and Jimmy, or Mary, Susan, and Jimmy, they all need to go to college.
Yeah.
And I know that you've probably saved some money, but I'm sure you haven't saved enough. Guess what? I'm going to use that money to help you pay for college. Are you in or out?
Right. Oh,
Right?
yeah. And you're probably going to say, let me think about it for a little while. Let me get back to you, right? But the other side of that is, okay, if you're going to pick up the tab for college, what does that free me up to do,
right.
right? Now, does it free me up to buy the BMW 11 Series? Maybe it does. Is
But
that
maybe it allows me to max out my 401k.
Bingo.
Maybe it
You're a
allows
genius.
maybe it
You
allows
studied.
me to refinance my house to a lower term mortgage. Maybe it allows me to in fact buy said vacation home that we have been talking about buying, but we just haven't been able to afford. And now, while my kids are 10, 11, and 12, I have a place in Cape Cod that we can go to every summer, or we can go skiing in Vermont every winter. And this is an opportunity that I didn't have before this
Oh,
happened.
refinance, not only refinance into a lower rate mortgage, refinance into a shorter term mortgage, right? You say to yourself, you know what? Because mom
That's
and
what
dad.
I said.
You said lower rate.
I
I'm
said
talking term.
shorter term.
I don't think you
I
said term.
said short.
I don't-
Why would I refinance to a
Christian,
lower rate
re-roll-
mortgage
re-roll
if I
that-
just got it?
re-roll that
We
tape.
will, yeah.
Re-roll that
Your
tape.
Honor, I can have the recorder
Okay.
read back
Did
to
you read
you
that
what
back
he
to me?
said.
Yeah.
Maybe it
You're a
allows
genius.
maybe it
You
allows
studied.
me to refinance my house to a lower term mortgage.
Yeah. So we're on the same
Objection.
page. You're on the same page,
Sustained.
right? The idea is, what are we going to do with this? Let's make it a team effort. Let's make it a team effort. That's the idea. So quick break for us. We'll come back and we'll kind of bring this thing to its very
The
logical
judge is calling
conclusion.
for a quick break.
Very
Everybody-
logical
yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Let's go to a recess.
Yeah,
we call it.
everybody's
It's a recess. we
everybody's
call it.
going to
We'll call it a break.
approach the bench.
Lawyers
Approach.
have different language for everything.
Approach
Hey, we can
the
take a
bench.
break, Your Honor. We're not going to take a break. We'll take a recess.
We're going on recess right
We're not
now.
going to take a break. We don't take breaks.
All right. Well, here we go on recess. We'll be right back after recess.
And you're back. Money Law, My FM 101.3, WMRC, Jay Marsden Law Group, John Drohan, Manor for Financial. We're back from our recess. And,
I don't know why I don't drink during the break.
We used to drink during the break. We used to drink during the show, actually. That was even.
I mean,
that
this
was
is just water.
water. I know.
so
I know. Yeah,
boring.
water. I know. Water. Fire water? Or is it just regular water?
No fire water.
Regular water? All right. All right.
Yep.
So we're talking about the concern, if you will, that the baby boomers have about dumping a pile of dough on their millennial kids who they feel maybe are not up to the task for this concept of wealth transfer, legacy planning, and we're trying to get everybody on the same page to say, look, have this conversation and be open to the idea. And by the way, first and foremost, we say this all the time, it's not your money.
Yeah.
Not till you get it, not till you get gifted it, not till you get left it. It's not your money. So your parents may, and parents all, we talked about at the beginning of the show, we all love our kids, but we all know just like every one of us, everybody's an individual, right?
Right.
And your parents may see things differently. They may see your kids differently. They may see their grandkids differently. You and your siblings may have achieved different degrees and different levels of success. So it's not always mom and dad's wish to split it a third, or whatever they're splitting it. They may have different objectives, and those objectives need to be respected.
And I was just going to say, there is in the estate planning world, there is a wonderful and beautiful tool that allows the parents, the said donors, to be able to distribute this money exactly how they want to.
What is it?
And the beauty of it is that so we don't have to go to that thing just yet, because
Right.
while I'm alive, it's my money.
my
I
money.
can
Do
I
whatever I
can
wanna
do
do.
whatever I want with it. If
Yeah.
I want to write you a check for $10,000, I can. If I don't want to, I don't have to. Unless you have some sort of power of attorney over like all of my stuff, you can't get my money, right?
No, that's right.
You can try and steal it from me, but you can't get my money. You can
That's
you know,
different. That's a crime.
That's criminal, and
Yeah.
that makes for a much different Thanksgiving than you had last year.
Changes the family dynamic quite a bit.
But even while I'm alive, I can set this thing up. I can build this thing that will say, okay, like you said, it's not going to go a third. It's going to go 10% is going to go here.
Yeah.
This asset is going to go here. This asset, and that is the beauty of the revocable trust.
Oh, I love
right.
it.
And now, why revocable versus irrevocable?
'Cause-
Attorney? Why?
Because you get to be
Counselor?
in charge, you get to change all the rules.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So remember in the revocable trust, we've talked about trust many times on this show, but in the revocable trust, revocable means you can change it. You are the trustee.
You're the boss.
Yep. So we always use the trust, the box. So I put the trust is a box, and I put stuff in the box, and inside that box there's specific instructions.
Oh, yeah.
That says this is where I want this stuff to go. First, it says who it's going
Yeah,
to. Right.
if I'm not around to tell you what to do with it, here's the list, right? Here this. It's like going to the grocery store, right? I can either go myself or I can give you a list that says, get these things.
Yeah.
That's it. Do these things at the store, right?
And here's the people that are going to get it, or here's the groups that are going to get it, right?
Yep.
And because it's revocable, let's say that I feel like that this particular person should get more. 10 years from now, I may say, you know what? I'm going to change that. I think that I get my legal eraser out. I go to my estate planning attorney's office and I say, I need to change the trust. The estate planning attorney says, of course, you are a client for life. Get in here.
Done
Get
and
in here.
done.
Get in here, young grasshopper.
Yes, done and done. Yeah, yeah. And by the way, you may make those changes not for negative reasons, by the way.
No,
you may
for
make
the
those
right reasons,
changes
for positive reasons.
Positive reasons. You may have said, you know what, I'm going to help out said child A, and so as a result of helping out said child A, I'm going to tip the scales for child B and C because A already got something. So B and C, I'm going to adjust it that way. If you are interested in this idea of equalization, which you don't always have to be, but if you want to be, that's where you would fix it. To your point, you can make some changes, you can tweak it, the rules of the game can change. And as a parent, I'm going to ask you this question because you've been you've been at it a little longer than I have. When your kids are little, when your kids are 7 and 8, all right, it's mayhem, right? All you think about is your kids as a 7 and 8-year-old. You think about making sure that they're fed and watered and that they're safe, right? But as your kids get older, as they become the young adults that you want them to become, this idea of preparing them, we joked about it at the beginning of the show, preparing them for the day-to-day existence, you also start to think about your kids' own financial well-being.
Right.
And if your parents come to you and say, or if your parents are interested in engaging a discussion that talks about transferring wealth, it should be transferring wealth to you or to you and to your children. So your 17-year-old, you can set them up. You can get them on a path very early that puts them in a position of real financial independence way sooner than all of their contemporaries, right? And your kids want to go buy a house. Again, you don't need to have $300,000 to buy a house. You need to have a down payment. And if putting some money away and having these legacy types conversations, good credit, and having these legacy conversations means that your kid would be in a position to be 25 or 26 years old, they have to live somewhere, right? So doing these things now, having these conversations now, is setting up not only yourself, but them for success going forward. And so you have to be open to the idea of this is really something that's going to benefit everybody.
That's all you want to do, right? All parents want to do is they want their kids to be happy. They want their kids to be successful. They want their kids to be to grow up to be, like participating, good, like society giving adults, right? They want their kids to win. They want the kids to win the game. It's all you want as a parent. So if you're gonna have your kid, put them in a position where at some point, right, whether you leave them money or whether you don't have a dime to leave them, at some point they're going to be on their own.
Yeah.
They're going to be real live grown-ups. And just like you and I were, we got to that point where, and I don't remember the exact day it happened,
right,
but I remember like kind of the time period where all of a sudden I looked around and I'm like, I'm a grown-up. It's like when in Santa Claus is coming, or the year Santa Claus is coming to town, it's like you can say, I'm a man now, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm a grown-up now. I can do this on my own.
There are no more training wheels on here. I got to fall.
I have a job. I have a paycheck. and
expenses. I got bills.
Don't get me wrong, Dad. If you want to slip me $20 for gas every time I come and visit you, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, and don't get me wrong, Dad. If you want to slip me $20 grand for a down payment on a house, I'll take that
as well.
I'll take it. Right? But if Dad's going to give you $20 grand, you need to understand that the $20 grand is not for the trip to Vegas, right? That could be life altering. We're not talking huge amounts of money, but we're talking about the right amount of money at the right time and done in the right context, a context where your parents feel like the money that they're giving to you is part of this intergenerational, it's a wealth transfer. It's not a lifestyle subsidy, right? It's about transferring money to you because they want you to get the same head start that they didn't get and that they're able to give you.
They want to advance your position. This isn't a good time. This isn't to simply just to effecate you and make you happy. This is to advance your position from where you are, from level 1 to level 2 or level 2 to level 3.
And by the way, and like every lesson, they're not going to learn it right out of the gate, right?
No.
So this is why your ongoing engagement and this discussion and constantly sort of having to reinforce these ideas is what's going to make the difference, because something's going to happen. You're going to put a couple of bucks away, you're going to put a couple more bucks away, the market cooperates, all of a sudden the light goes off and they see, oh my God, that compounding interest thing that you've been talking about, that thing is like magic,
really works,
isn't it? Yeah, it does. And then that's what you need to do. You need to get them, get them excited about it. But you need part of a big conversation that says, look, we can do some good things here as a family unit, right? All 3 rows, we can make a real big impact here. Let's all work together, and I have to feel as the one basically starting this ball rolling that where I'm going and who I'm giving this to is ready to accept it and ready to move forward.
And the one thing that could help this in this whole process before we got to wrap it up,
we got to wrap it up.
is that if your kids have some extremely wealthy friends, right? So then it puts everything in perspective. So if one of their friends like, yeah, I don't have a summer job and I don't need a summer job because I'm just going to like
work on my tennis game.
Yeah, I'm going to pay and my parent and I'll just have money for college. I'll have money to travel abroad. And then your daughter or son says to you like, well, Joni, she doesn't have to get a summer job. She's not working this summer. And you're like, oh, that's different. You do need a summer job.
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
You do need that. And oh, by the way, yeah, mom and dad are going to leave you some money, but it ain't going to be for a long time because right now, mom and dad need the money.
That's right. Teachable moment, we call that. Teachable moment.
That's right. All right.
Good stuff.
All right, so we got to wrap it up. All right, so with our millennial in the room with us, I hope that you learned.
Well, he was writing down ferociously back there.
He was taking notes. He's like, he wants to go home and have a conversation with his
back
old
and
man.
Shake down the old man. Yep, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So Jay and John said that you should give me a check for $20,000. That's pretty much all I heard.
If I was willing to be open to the idea, and I am, I very much am. I'll take the
$20 to $20,000 or anywhere in between. Just write me a check. Dad.
Wire transfer to the brokerage account. We're good.
And they'd also like me to set up a brokerage account.
Nice.
I'm not sure with who, but one of those guys.
That's
maybe both, maybe
That's
two.
Good idea.
Two brokerage accounts. All right, we'll see everybody next week on Money in the Law with Jay Marzer from the Marzer Law Group. I'm John Drohan and the Holliston Cable Access TV, Christian Bidet. We'll see everybody next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
On My FM 101.3.